And to discuss the increase of tuition in private schools, we have COCOPEA Legal Counsel Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada. Sir, good morning and welcome to Morning Matters, Attorney.
Good morning, Ed, and good morning to all of your viewers and listeners.
Well, thank you for joining us. Attorney, to begin with, ano po, when we're talking about tuition hike here, ano po yung average na nakikita natin dito? And how much of it has been approved?
Well, when we talk about tuition increase in the private schools, it's basically controlled by inflation. That's number one, and of course the market that each individual school is catered. So the range of increase, I would say around 3% or even lower in some areas, up to as high as 5% to 7%.
Attorney, I was reading up a bit on this. I understand there are several laws that govern the increases in tuition, RA 6728 and Batas Pambansa 232. Am I getting it right na the schools actually have the authority to increase on their own so long as there's a green light from DepEd and CHED?
It's the right to determine the fees belong to the private educational institution. So they determine the rate, but subject to compliance with regulations of the DepEd and CHED before it is collectible. So then as provided in RA 6728, these are the administrative requirements. So first is that the incremental proceeds collected by the private schools should be allocated where 70% goes to
70%.
salaries of personnel and 20% goes to facilities.
And so that leaves 10% for the school itself.
For the school itself, or it can add to those other needs of the school. Like for example, 20% for sure will that be enough for improvement of facilities. So usually doon po kinukuha yun.
As you said po, kailangan ng approval, I suppose, in the end, ng DepEd or ng CHED. Do we have already the numbers as to how many schools have been approved, I mean, at least their applications for increases or adjustments?
Right now, wala pa po. We're also waiting for it. Yung pong kadalasan ng deadline is May, first week or second week of May. So anytime the CHED and DepEd will release the results of the applications. Regional po kasi ang application yan. So, but the target of course is before the opening of the classes.
The opening of classes po is middle of June already. Is that right? Kasi I've been out of school for a long time already. So I just found out lang pala just a few hours ago na nag-revert na pala to June ng school opening.
Yes, bumalik na po doon ang public schools. So marami din pong bumalik na rin doon sa dating opening natin na around June. So sumusunod po sa public schools, hindi masyadong lumalayo doon ng mga private schools. So some are opening in June. Some are opening also in July. But most of the colleges and universities, I think they're opening in July.
But more or less, it's back to June to March, at least in that vicinity, versus yung dating August to May. I think this was in 2014. What explains, sir, the reversion? I mean, I remember kasi in 2014, parang this was a big discussion. There were a lot of people opposing it to begin with. And then natuloy, and then yung pala babalik lang tayo.
Maraming factors. Number one, yung sumusunod nga tayo sa public schools. Hindi pwedeng masyadong malayo yung opening ng public schools sa private schools. Kasi syempre we also need to align. We have to make sure mobility of students also. So halimbawa pag natapos ang isang school year, kung lilipat sa public schools or vice versa, of course, dapat yung school malayo. But I think marami rin kaming naririnig na dahilan. Like for example, pag umaabot na yung school year ng summer, yung dating summer break natin, napakainit, di ba? Napansin natin, napakaraming suspension of classes also because of the heat index. And many schools don't want that anymore. Of course, we'll have to deal again with rainy season. Pero ngayon, bagyo ay wala nang pinipili. Dati, June at July lang ngayon, even in September, di ba? Bumabagyo pa rin. So, mga ganong factors ang tinitingnan.
In fact, attorney, if I recall correctly, yung mga 2014 time, ano yun part of the discussion was the need to move the opening of the school year dahil sa dami ng bagyo, puro cancellation ng classes. So there were too many absences by the kids. That was the logic in 2014. But it turns out pala na when they moved it to summer, dumami naman ng absences dahil puro heat wave.
Tama yun, Ed. And in different parts of the country, magkakaiba din yung rainy season or yung time na binibisita sila ng bagyo. No, so talagang hindi natin magawang uniform for all regions and for all schools. Yung iba binibisita ng bagyo outside of NCR mga September or October na no. So wala, hindi mo talaga, you cannot have one to address all of these issues for suspension of classes. But again, we're moving back to the June opening of classes, June to March school year.
So 2014 was basically a mistake, I suppose. Would that be fair to say now?
Hindi naman siguro a mistake, but well, again, we defer to our education agencies. Of course, may mga kanya-kanyang kino-consider din factors based on their own stakeholders and localities. Maraming issues that schools have to deal with.
I can imagine, especially with the climate going haywire. Tapos I also understand with the kids going to school during the summer months, at least with the previous schedule or the previously new schedule, tumataas ng costs because of air conditioning dahil mainit.
Tumataas ang cost dahil mataas ang kuryente. So we'll have to deal with that. So hopefully maiwasan na yon by going back to the old school calendar.
Well, so you're fine with the old school calendar. I mean, I suppose this is the lesser evil, if you might call it that.
Yeah, we're most of our members are okay with the old school calendar. Kasi pag inabot ka din ng mga holidays, mga bare months, no, marami na ring disruptions. Students also don't nagbabakasyon na yung ibang pamilya for the Christmas break.
Holiday mode.
Exam pa yung iba, may problema pa sa exam. So yun ang iniiwasan din. Yung maraming disruptions because of our regular and special holidays. And in addition to the weather conditions.
Tapos, sir, last na lang, if I may, what's the news with regard to enrollment in private schools? Kasi I do remember a few years ago, there was a shift between public and private school enrollment because of the increasing costs. I'm wondering how it is right now. How have the trends moved?
Well, it continues to decline in terms of enrollment, but we're picking up naman. We're improving the numbers compared to the pandemic. As you may well know, many of the schools, private schools, have stopped their operations because of the lack of enrollment during the pandemic. But we're picking up, but I would say still steady decline because of the cost for families, inflation, all of these factors. And of course, many of them go to the public school system because it is.
But we're nowhere near the pre-pandemic levels. I mean, in terms of the number of private schools that are open. Hindi pa tayo bumabalik dun sa dati.
Hindi pa, medyo malayo pa.
Malayo pa.
Tayo. Yes.
In broad strokes, attorney, how big was it how big was the cut in the number of schools?
Kung number of schools, kasi pre-pandemic nasa 13,000 yan. Actually, conservative pa yung 13,000. But now, you only have 9,000 private schools all over the country. Mga nasa a little over 2 million enrollment sa basic ed and more than 1 million in colleges and universities. Pre-pandemic, nasa 3 million, mahigit na yung enrollment sa basic ed and around 2 million sa colleges and universities. So, medyo malayo pa tayo sa pre-pandemic numbers.
We had pala 13,000 private schools before pandemic. I didn't know we had that many private schools.
Dati 16,000 yun ang sinasabi, but yung iba doon na double count. So I would say mga nasa 13,000 plus yun before the pandemic. now it's just 9,000 according to
9,000. So may 4,000 pa rin na sarado since the pandemic, and they have not reopened. Are these likely to stay closed? Tuloy-tuloy na to or ano? Or
some of them closed some of the programs, but they continue with other programs. Like for example, they closed elementary, they continue with junior high, or some just retain the senior high school program. And some totally closed all of their programs. Yung iba
Okay.
paasa na na magkaroon ng expansion ng subsidy sa elementary. Malaking bagay po 'yun because the bulk of enrollment really is in elementary.
Okay. COCOPEA Legal Counsel Attorney Joseph Noel Estrada, sir, thank you for joining us this morning.